Moving forward with the GenNext 2022 inaugural session for our second week. For the keynote address, we are delighted to have amongst us GV Anand Bhushan, General Counsel and Partner, Head, Jindal Global Law School. Anand is the founder partner of Bhushan Rajaram, a firm specializing in corporate intellectual property, technology, litigation, real estate laws. Anand, a Fulbright scholar, has over 2 decades of extensive experience in general corporate projects, technology, dispute resolution, amongst others. He has substantial exposure in technology, data privacy, data protection law, strategic alliances, intellectual property, deal structuring, advisory, export control regulations, amongst others. He was the founder, partner, and head for Shardul Amarchand's Chennai office from 2016 till August 2021. In 2017, he was recognized as Technology Lawyer of the Year by the Indian National Bar Association. So on that note, I would invite GV Anand Bhushan for the keynote address. Anand, please.
Thank you, Dr. Amna. Again, you're too charitable with your introductions, and I have a tough act to follow, both Vineet and Navneet. So again, good afternoon to everyone. I was wondering if I could share a slide. If you could enable that, that would be great. Otherwise, no problem. You could let me know.
So I'll just tell the technical team. Yeah, I'll just update the technical team. Yeah.
Excellent. So it's a pleasure speaking here. And I think you've gotten a good lay of the land hearing both Vineet and Navneet. And what we thought would make sense was in this session, in my part of the speech, connect it down to what are the legal blind spots, what are the regulatory risks, and how are companies dealing with these emerging technologies. Now, the first part of these emerging technologies, we use too many buzzwords, so I just wanted to break it down. You'll hear these same set of challenges, and I'll go in detail what these challenges are, but you'll hear it in these emerging technologies. You may call it Internet of Things, you'll hear it as IoT. You'll hear it sometimes as the fourth industrial revolution. And sometimes you'll hear about these things in isolation, AI, AR, VR, you'll hear it in cryptocurrencies, you'll hear it in blockchain. But in the simplest terms, it doesn't matter if we're talking about AR, it doesn't matter if we're talking about artificial intelligence. The key driving force, and it can cut across industries, it can cut across automobiles, it can cut across pharmaceuticals, it can cut across even our legal industry. The key driver is, one is this technology is interconnected. So the apps speak to themselves, the hardware is smart, and it is a networked interface, meaning the people, users, subscribers, however you want to categorize them, are also connected. So it's a connected mesh, it's the number one point. And two, they're not dumb computing devices. They're not standalone. They're usually plugged into the cloud. It's a networked architecture. So everything is becoming smarter, from the time you open your fridge to the time you fill up or charge your car to the way you use your telephone. So just imagine a world where not only are your devices connected, you are also networked in that sense. And it may be the currency you use. It may be the entertainment and media that you consume. It can be even the type of case laws you're researching and how you're storing your own research online, right? So it's permeating everything. So whenever we say emerging tech, Navneet was bang on the money when he said, it's just permeating all aspects of our lifestyle. And just so keep an eye on it, because these type of regulatory changes does not impact only blockchain. It does not only impact, say, 3D printing. It has widespread application. And even if you're running a traditional manufacturing practice, a traditional automobile company, you'll find out the way logistics is being conducted, the way employee data is being aggregated, the way you're paying out your vendors, the way intellectual property is being created. You'll be using a lot of these emerging technologies, and they will have implications on your business. So whenever they use the buzzwords, just keep in mind, when we're talking about a network connected world with smart computing, from medical to crypto to blockchain to robotics, even the way they're being used in traditional businesses, you're likely to get impacted. Now we come to the next question, right? We keep hearing the word, okay, fine, there are challenges, there are legal challenges. What are those legal challenges? Here's where I was hoping to be able, excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramna, for allowing me to share the slide. I just, I thought this slide was so very helpful. Let me just get this, so in this entire ecosystem, right? India is actually in the cutting edge of many of this. In certain aspects, we've gotten it phenomenally right. So if you talk about the JAM stack, that's the Jan Dhan Yojana, the UPI payment interface, and Aadhaar, which is your identification, it's fantastic. The government innovated with technology, with a very progressive mindset. It open source the technology. So even though you're using Google Pay, GPay, Amazon Pay, WhatsApp Pay, it doesn't matter. It's all on NPCI UPI, the United Payment Interface, which the government of India developed and licensed to the private sector. And guess what? They set up the National Payments Commission of India as a Section 8 company, which had such a business-friendly outlook, right? It was not a regulator saying, do this, don't do this. It fostered the technology. And guess what? In the fintech space, more people today are using UPI rather than credit cards. And that's a mind-boggling change to have happened in such a small step. But where has India got it wrong? For every participant, if I use the phrase data privacy, you'll hear one long groan. Why? Because for the last 3 years, you ask any lawyer, they'll say within 6 months, winter session of parliament, we will have our data privacy bill. Every lawyer gave that advice for the last 3 years. What happened? Bill was again withdrawn from the Lok Sabha. And I've highlighted as one of the risks, but limited or lack of regulation is in certain areas like fintech. India has done a phenomenal job. But same area of fintech, for example, they've taken a very conservative approach when it comes to cryptocurrency and blockchain. RBI went to the extent of saying cryptocurrency exchanges cannot even work and facilitate with banks, with financial institutions, meaning like if you start dealing with the exchange and you want to cash out, you can't convert your cryptos back into INR because the banks were not allowed to provide services to exchanges. I'll give you another example of lack or limited regulation. There's so much of innovation happening in credit lending, right? So the government has innovated so much on facilitating payments. But what about the large unbanked, the 60% of our rural population who can't afford to pay now? They actually have good credit worthiness, but not in the way we are capable of generating a credit score. Do you have a bank account? Do you have a salary account? They have a different way, right? Do they have agricultural produce? Do they have land? Do they have coal? So there's a different way software is building up credit worthiness. Government again RBI passed regulations, buy now, pay later schemes, and generating these credit profiles and flooding them with credit was a risk. No doubt, they are definitely a risk because you don't want to create an indebted citizenry by easy to access finance. But at the same time, you can't shut down entire industries with aggressive regulation. So I would say the number one challenge when we're dealing with emerging tech is limited or lack or unclear regulation. And guess what? This is not an India problem. It's not a USA problem. It is the nature of technology. Technology will keep evolving. Our lawyers and legislators will keep playing catch up. And by the time that law becomes a bill and jurisprudence is established, that technology has evolved another 2 or 3 steps. So we will never be able to get around the elephant of the room of limited or lack of regulation. Now, due to paucity of time, I'm just going to hit some of the main issues here. The second issue is around data privacy and data sharing. I think I have a slide specifically for data privacy and security related challenges. Here you go. Now, the very nature of technology, sometimes they say, data is the new oil. It's a very cliche phrase. I don't think it is. The irony is companies collect more data than they need, and they have not realized how to monetize it. But whether they've realized to monetize, and some companies have done it phenomenally, right? Meta, Amazon, business models are made on data privacy, but every company has seen them, and whether they need it or not, are just collecting so much of data. Now, how important is this data in this new economy? It's important. It carries your financial information, it carries your medical health information. I'll just give you an example of how simple, innocuous devices have great privacy implications, which our law has not caught up with yet. Imagine you're using a health band. That health band is calculating how many steps you're walking a day. Now, based on that, it finds out you're walking only 2,000 steps instead of the 10,000, and it then reports or sells that data to your insurer, and your insurer decides to increase your premium. Imagine you use UPI and payments data, and thereafter they are finding out that even though you have declared yourself as a non-smoker, your financial data shows you buying cigarette packets. You're drinking alcohol 3 times a week. It's easy to build up a health profile, right? You see, and what about your location data? Seeing your phone usage. So if they find out, hey, this particular lawyer is staying up till 3 a.m., smoking, enjoying a good drink and doing 2,000 steps, and they increase the premiums, right? And imagine this, your Fitbit or your physical device is now aggregating data, building profile with your financial data, selling that data to an insurer or a health provider. It quickly becomes an Orwellian concept. So in India, the reality of it is every company has a fantastically drafted privacy policy. It's a beautiful policy. The link is there. The privacy officers mentioned. You peer behind that. I give it to you in writing. Barring 5 to 10% of our corporations, even our large corporations, there is no privacy architecture behind it. India is just growing so fast, and the digitization has happened at such a compressed speed. Companies are in the first layer of trying to put in the appropriate security architecture. That is to basically secure the data. How they are monetizing, commercializing, and exploiting is the second layer of protection. Data privacy. We use these phrases interchangeably. Data security is the level 1. At least keep that data secure. Even if you're collecting my data, even if you're using, at least don't lose your username and passwords. And I'm not going to name names, but the media has reported extensively. Large companies, they've been held to ransomware attacks. They've been held liable to data privacy breaches. It's Indian companies, it's large multinational corporations. And you will find out that data privacy, and I'm talking about real solid data privacy with a privacy impact assessment, data classification for a fit purpose, and then being compliant, right? If you're doing business internationally, are you GDPR compliant? Are you anticipating to be in compliance of our future data privacy bill or data protection bill, depending on how we classify it? There's a lot of work that needs to be done. So after I say lax or ambivalent or unclear regulation, the second is the increasing risk of data privacy. It will follow you everywhere. The CCTV in your house, to the CCTV in your office, to the biometrics embedded in your body, to the biometrics in your phones, to the way you do your work, to the timesheets you fill, to the invoices you raise, to the taxes you file. From birth to death, it will be digitized, tracked, monitored, and taxed. And how in this world we function is going to be a big challenge, which then comes us to the third aspect of it. I feel a lot of this is good. I'm keeping an eye on our time. Yes, in the 3 to 4 minutes that I have, what would be the third biggest challenge? This is where civil society, private sector, and government speak in different voices. And I feel this is going to be the biggest challenge, more than the last point you see on the slide, cross-border inconsistent. Laws are varied from country to country historically. Finance laws are different. The world moves on. The world finds a way to operate. They find a way to contractually de-risk. They find a way to commercially de-risk, and it will continue. If you ask me what I feel is the biggest risk, is in this world of increased surveillance of personal spaces, surveillance of professional spaces, surveillance by law enforcement, and how all of that data is being used either for better workplace performance, better tax collection, or better law enforcement or national security. Depending on who, right, you'll get a very different answer. Somebody will say this is a nightmare. A civil society activist will say this is a nightmare. A law enforcement person will say this is a boon. We have such limited budget. How do you expect me to monitor this other than using technology? And you talk about the government will be, yes, security concerns in the hierarchy of needs overweigh privacy concerns. Supreme Court has had a different view. They said, no, it's a fundamental right. But they still gave powers to the state to absolve itself from certain requirements. So as we deal with lack of regulation, as we deal with privacy and security risk, as we deal with cross-border regulations being different, humanity has faced these problems in different aspects of law many different times before and has always prevailed. What is happening in our society today is this polarized atmosphere, especially when our information is used for law enforcement, it is used for national security concerns, it's used in freedom of speech concerns. And I would urge us as lawyers not to take a us versus them approach. And I think our Supreme Court and our Indian jurisprudence has a beautiful answer. We give our citizens fundamental rights, and in the same breath, we say they are subject to reasonable restrictions. So it should not be, yes, we should have Aadhaar, or no, we should not have Aadhaar. That's a very primitive argument. So we definitely should have that Aadhaar, but what are the reasonable restrictions in that usage? And that definition will change yearly depending on how the citizenry is reacting and what the citizens find is important to them. And I urge us to come with that kind of mindset and that flexibility of mindset when we are dealing with all of these regulatory challenges, because from the devices you wear in AR, VR, from the devices you strap onto your watch to the way you're computing, believe it or not, in the next 3 to 5 years, we're looking at a whole new world. And our flexibility as lawyers, as practicing attorneys, as in-house counsel, we will be driving a lot of those changes that are going to be happening on the ground. And I'm very thankful to Legal Era for giving me this opportunity to interact with such a wonderful panel and giving me the opportunity to interact with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anand, for this very interesting presentation. And with that, we come to the very interesting opening session that we've just had. Thank you so much to all the wonderful, distinguished speakers who have really apprised us with respect to important challenges and opportunities when we talk about disruptive technologies. Thank you so much, Vineet Vish. Thank you so much, Navneet, Prikeshan Ji. And thank you so much, Anand, for those very important insights. Thank you.